Thank you for attending the Reposition Your Business for Accelerated Growth. My name is Cherelle James. And today I want to talk to you about the time that I myself found myself in the corner of a public bathroom, on the phone with my business partner, whispering, desperately praying that no one was going to walk into this bathroom at this moment. It was one of the most embarrassing times in my life. The truth is, I was a CEO of a business that looked very good on the outside. But inside, I was living with fear, trapped in the day to day, and struggling to understand where the money was going and how in the world I was going to grow. Now, I knew everything about my clients' businesses, could tell you every single one of their numbers. But when I had the opportunity to get help for our business, I needed to pitch the business to some people that were going to give us some coaching help. I went, I registered, and the lady said, "Can you please fill out this paper?" I looked at the paper and my heart sank. It sank because I knew none of the answers, which in turn led me to this bathroom, looking under each stall as I went to the corner, making sure no one was in there, to ask my partner simple questions that I should have known. Questions such as, what was your revenue last year? What's your projected revenue for this quarter? What are your goals for the business? Now, here I am, the CEO of my business, and I have no clue what's happening in it. The truth was, we really were struggling, and I needed help. But more importantly, it became the deciding factor for the business that I have today. Now, that factor was I no longer was going to allow the business to take control of me. I was going to control the business. So I hope that each and every one of you that are listening to me today are here so that you can take even more control of your business no matter where you are on today. And it's by having accelerated growth. Now, as I said, I've added hundreds of thousands of dollars to clients' bottom lines, but couldn't figure out how to do it for myself. And it was because I was putting them first, working inside the business and not on the business. So what we're talking about today are some things as a business owner that you need to be focused on. Now, the things we're going to talk about today are not, rocket science. There's simple areas where I want to give you a few more tips to hone in on those areas that can make all the difference. That now I'm able to add hundreds of thousands of dollars to my bottom line. But more importantly, in less than a year of taking hold of my business and really focusing in on these areas, I was able to double and almost triple the revenue for the next year. So here we go. The first area is process and systems. I want to be clear. You have to have process and systems, not just up here. You have to have them somewhere because we need to make them duplicatable, meaning that as we grow and we begin to hire, we need to be able to have it duplicatable so that we can easily train other people. Now, time for training is money, is dollars. And the longer it takes to train someone and to get them up and running, the more profit is going out the door because we're not being efficient. Process and systems make us efficient. Now, I'll give this example. There's a lot of business owners out there right now, and I know that you think you need to do it all. If I don't do it, it's not going to be done right. And I already have the process up here. It'll take too long to tell somebody else, and I just might as well do it. I use this example. I can go cut my grass, but it's going to take me a couple hours to get mentally prepared for it. It's going to take me probably a few hours to finish cutting the grass, and then the rest of the day to recover. And that's just the honest truth. So for me, it's cheaper to pay an expert person, lawn care person, to cut my grass. It takes them not even 30 minutes to cut my grass because one, they have the right tools. They know exactly what they're doing. And this is what they do. So they're an expert in what they do. And that 30 minutes that would have took me a whole day, what can I use that whole day for? If I can't make enough money to pay them to cut my grass, then I have a problem. It's the same in your business. There's certain things that you're doing right now that you don't have to do. So one of the things I want you to do is to make a list of all the things that you do in your business, every single one of the things that you do in your business. And then I want you to look at that list and be honest with yourself. Now, this is the hard part. Be very honest with yourself on what do you actually have to do. Like, it actually has to be you to do it. Now, I have a client that owns a magazine, and she said, I have to do every layout. That wasn't the truth. The truth was she needs to approve every layout, but somebody else can do the layouts. You see where I'm going here? So I want you to get very, very clear on what are the things that you need to do. That's first. Then number two, I want you to look at those things that you can get someone else to do, and out of those things, see where can we automate? What things can be automated? What systems need to be put in place that will allow some of those things to be automated? And thirdly, where do we actually need people to either manage the process of automation or to be able to actually do the task? Simple as that. What process and systems do we have in place? What things that you need to do? What things can we automate? And what things can we, that someone else, another person outside of us, needs to do? Now, once you understand that, that frees up your time, because as the business owner, as the CEO of your company, you need to be there for vision. You are the front face of your company. And at the end of the day, you're responsible for sales. So if you're not out marketing and being part of the brand and driving the vision, guess what's not happening? Sales are not coming in through the door. That's what's not happening. And yes, if you're a bigger business and you have a marketing person, yes, they are responsible for marketing and branding. But at the end of the day, as the CEO, president of your company, you are the ultimate face. So we need to make sure that you're able to go out and do the networking, to do other income producing activities that lead the dollars back to your business, while other people are working on a lot of the technical things. Now, if you say, I'm not that big, it's just me, that's totally fine. Then I would say, what process and systems do you have in place so that you can do income producing activities during the daytime and do technical activities at night? Those activities where you need to deliver the product or service, doing those at night and bringing in business during the day. Okay, so now we've touched on process and systems. Now, process and systems expands your whole business. So I want you to look at everything. There are all kinds of tools out there that can help you. With email, with making sure you're staying in contact with your clientele, your suspects, just people in general, your network, letting them know what's happening and what's going on. There's social media process and systems that need to be put in place, sales process and systems that need to be put in place, staff and team process and systems that need to be put in place. Every aspect of your business, I want you to look at every aspect and make sure that you have process and systems in place that can make it more. Are you as efficient as you can be? Or is there some other things that can happen there? Because it's the efficiency. The more efficient your business runs, the less dollars it takes to run it. So yes, we may need to invest in a system where we're paying dollars for the system, but the question is, what's the return on that investment? Would it alleviate some time for me to do some other things or for your team to do some other things? Is it going to allow you to move faster and be up and running faster? Then it's worth it. Absolutely worth it. And it's actually helping you to increase profit. Now, the second place we want to go is in your revenue. And I know people talk about revenue all the time, but I'm going to talk about it just a little bit different. Okay, maybe I'll hit on some things that you're thinking of as well, but we're going to talk about it in some other different ways too. My question to you, and you know, it's something that I always say, it's not that you don't have a good product or service, it's are you profitable? Now, when we hit that question, are you profitable? That means after the revenue, most people tell us how much revenue they made. I'm not impressed by that. I'm impressed with how much do you get to keep after you pay everything. That's called your profit, right? So it doesn't matter how much you make. You can make $900,000 and have $800,000 in expenses, and you only really made $100,000. Now, to some people, that'll sound like that's pretty good, and to other people, it's like, but I made $900,000 and I only get to keep $100,000. Add zeros, subtract zeros, you get the same thing. That's all I'm saying. So when we're looking at the revenue, we want to look at the different products and services that we offer. And we want to understand the pricing around those products and services. How are we priced? Do we understand why we're priced the way we are? Or did we do what I like to call pluck a number from the air? Now, when we pluck a number from the air, what happens is we're not as confident about that price. So a lot of people are able to negotiate us down. A lot of people are like, I don't know. We're like, okay, we're practically doing our service or giving away our product for free because we weren't confident in the pricing that we had. So what goes with pricing? You need to understand the labor, the material, most importantly, the time. The time that goes into producing the product or the service. Most people don't count the time. They only count like labor and material, but time goes into that as well. And now if you're the only person that's doing this right now, I say, think about if you were hired to do this job for somebody else. Kind of what would you be paid? What is around the average that you would be paid? And that's a good starting point. I'm not saying that that's where you have to stay. I'm just saying that's a good starting point when you're looking at from a time and labor standpoint to add into to make up your pricing. Now, once you understand all of those things and you get a number, that's called your break even. That means it's going to take this amount for labor and material. It's going to cost this amount. So I have broke even. I'm not making any money, but I'm not losing any money. Then we add the time in there, and the time allows us to add a little bit more money, right? To increase and to create profit for ourselves. So in that, we have pricing in our revenue. Next in our revenue, I want you to look at, as we're looking at our product or service, is what are our clients actually needing? Is the product or service that I'm providing what my client needs? Now, I break this down into 3 buckets to be very simple. Now, there's going to be some complexity in it, but I break it down to 3 buckets to be simple. The first one is called my basic bucket. Anyone who walks in the door, I know off bat as the expert that you need this. Whatever this is, you need this. Then, if you're a little bit more advanced, you're going to need the basic plus these things. So that's my second product or service or bucket. And then the third one is an all-inclusive, meaning this is everything, the whole shebang. You get everything. What does that look like? And then adding the price to that, but also understanding the value of each and every one of those buckets or each and one of those products or services that we're offering there. So a lot of people say, well, how do I structure that? That's kind of a quick and easy structure for your products and services. Now, if you already have your products and services together, the question is, what about packaging them a little bit differently? So if I offer product A, product B, and product C, but because I'm looking at my revenue, I'm understanding sales, I see that most of my clients are buying A and C, then I want to bundle A and C together, because that says to my client, I know exactly what you need. And so I'm going to bundle these together, and we're going to create a price for that. Price could be the same as if you bought A and C separate, or it could be a different price. That's up to you and knowing your audience. But bundling can help. The other thing we want to look at when we look at products and services is what product or service am I not taking advantage of? What product or service am I not taking advantage of that I can expand a little bit more? Once I put some processes and systems in place, it allows me to expand that product or service. Let me give you an example of that. I have a client and she came and said, we've made $1 million, but we have no idea what happened. We don't know where it is. Can you help us? Absolutely, we can help. So the first thing we looked at is what type of products or services are you providing? And this happened to be a service company. So what type of services are you providing? And we realized that they had a service that didn't just fit the area they're in, but they could provide to the state and beyond if they had the right systems and processes in place. So they weren't really using it because it was a delivery service, which means that they had to have a vehicle, they had to have 1 to 2 people for delivery, they had to pay for gas, they had to pay for the vehicle costs, they had to pay these people, and there was risk. So insurance went up. So we have all of these prices that are going up. So, and if I want to expand, I need more vehicles, I need more people, insurance is going to go up. So it was hard to expand. It's like, we can't expand this. This is all we can do. We try to take on a couple of people here or there, but they have to be in these areas. This is all we can do. Well, what we did is we came in and we researched and found a company that not only sells the product that they have, but they sold it to the vendors that they were using. Not only did they sell it to the vendors they're using, so we were able to go directly to the source, get a better pricing, and then they ship it for them. You put your order in today, the client has it the next day. Faster service, quality service for the client, and now I'm not worried about every time I expand, I have to add more labor, I have to add more vehicles, I have to add more insurance, which means that I've just now, one, decreased the amount that I was paying to people, cars, and insurance, and I've increased our profit. So not only our profit, but our sales, right? Our revenue increased, which means our profit can now increase because some of those expenses went down. So that's an example of, are you taking advantage of the services and products when you put process and systems in place, understand the products and services that you have and you're delivering, and then figure out which ones you're not really maximizing. So we maximize this product or service for this client. Now, the second thing we did after we looked at their process and systems for this, and then we looked at their revenue, the second thing we did was we looked at expenses. So this is number 3 for you guys, expenses, process systems, revenue, expenses. When we look at expenses, there are 2 types of expenses. There are variable cost and fixed cost. Now, variable cost is directly associated to the sale of a product or a service. That's your labor material that we talked about earlier. Now, fixed costs are costs that regardless if you have a sale, you have to pay it. So rent, utility, insurance, all of those things are fixed costs. They don't care if someone comes in the door or not, you got to pay me still. Variable costs are costs where they vary depending on what the sales are in labor and material. Now, you also know variable costs to be known. Some people call it COGS, C-O-G-S, which is cost of goods sold, or for services, they call it costs, C-O-S-S, cost of services sold, and sometimes cost of sales sold. So that's a portion of your expenses. And then, of course, you have your fixed expenses. Now, let's talk about the variable cost first. In the variable cost, you have to keep your eye on your labor. Now, we have a client that does janitorial construction work, and they had 2 buildings. They had a big building, the square footage was, fairly large, and then they had a small building that had small square footage. Now, ideally, they did the same type of work for both buildings. Now, on paper, it looked like the big building, they made more money, right? Because it's more square footage, they charge a little bit more. But in actuality, when we broke down the numbers and really looked at the labor ratios, they were paying more in labor in the big building than they were in the small building, which meant that they were making more money on the smaller building than the bigger building. And the question we had for this client was, what are you doing different in the small building that you're not doing in the big building? He sat, he pondered, and the light bulb went off. He says, because this is such a small building, I put a time limit on how long it's going to take to clean it. But because that's a big building, I don't put any kind of time limit on it. I just let them go and clean it. So really what was happening was the labor was taking advantage and riding the clock, taking their time in cleaning the bigger building, which for the owner or for your business meant that that was less profit coming in because you've already bid it out, kind of figured out how many hours it's going to take, what it's going to take, you know, cost-wise to give a price to your client. And you have labor eating up that cost. And so your profit is going in their pocket, not in your own. And one of the things that he was looking at is he wanted to be able to give, he needed to increase his income because his wife had recently come on as an employee, and he wanted to be able to give her a salary as an employee in the company. And what we realized was, well, number one, your labor cost, we need to really, you know, keep an eye on that because you have profits going out there. And number two, where you're bidding, your numbers that you're bidding, if you raised it by just 2 cents, you can make thousands and thousands of dollars. So this is where your pricing and your labor, looking at the two of those together, come together to increase your profit. So right where he needed to have the money to pay his wife and be able, or a new employee to be able to bring that new employee on, it was right there between his pricing and the cost that labor was costing him because he wasn't watching the clock and watching what they were doing on the clock. So we brought that money back in-house, and he was able to hire that employee that he wanted to hire and be able to do business with his wife, and his wife be able to get her own paycheck. So now that we talked about variable costs, I want to talk about fixed costs. Now, fixed costs is a place that we don't really talk about a lot. We just say, oh, we don't need that, we don't need that, we don't need that. Let me just tell you this. You cannot save your way to just eliminating expenses out of your life. That is not how you become profitable. Because you can hit a point where you're at bare bones. There's nothing else you can cut. Because if we do, we're going to actually affect operations, and we're still going to lose money because we won't be able to run the way that we need to run. So there's a mixture between your revenue coming in and the expenses going out that you need to kind of play with that to be able to have a good mix. It's almost like a dance, you know, to have a good mix to be able to be profitable. But now in our fixed expenses, we don't look a lot of times at things that we may have on autopilot that are just coming out of the bank. We have programs, we have software, we have services that are just coming out of our bank account. And guess what? We're not using them. Well, that $10 to $20 to $100 a year adds up to $120 to $240 to $1,200 for the year of profit out of our business that could be spent somewhere else, or just be pure profit for you, the owner. And you're looking for places to have a raise or to be able to do some other things in your business. And here it is right here going out because we're not watching those things that are on autopilot. So I want you to check those things that are on autopilot. Now, the other thing that I want you to do is really look at what you're spending. Is everything necessary? A lot of times expenses increase and we don't even realize they increase because we're steadily just paying the bill, just paying the bill, just paying the bill. You have to have your finger on the pulse. You have to know what's going out. Any number that's not tracked is lost. Let me say that again. Any number that's not tracked is lost. So you want to make sure that you're tracking every number that's coming in every number that's going out. I always say that all the numbers coming in, they have to be named. They have a home. What are they going towards? And all the things that are going out, we need to make sure that they're going to the right places. And we're not just spending money just to spend money. Now, with that being said, I want to kind of talk to you about, go back to the client that we talked about earlier, that we helped with automating a service to be able to expand their revenue, a revenue piece that they didn't have before, at the level that they have it now. Now, they also had labor. And when we looked at their labor, we said, you're spending way too much cutting checks. You're spending way too much time cutting checks for all of this labor that you have. They had a person that was dedicated for 2-3 days of processing and taking up hours, and it was a manual process, and Excel spreadsheets as Excel spreadsheets, and then they were cutting checks, and they were literally manually writing checks, and we were like, oh no, this is way too much. You're losing money here because you have a valuable asset, which is your staff. A person is very, very valuable in your business, doing tasks that can be automated. And not only can they be automated, we can now cut the expenses on it as well. So we put another processor system in place, put them on a payroll company, put the labor on direct deposit. So now they're not just coming somebody's office anytime to pick up the check when they're supposed to be working. Their money is deposited in their account because we value them. And the staff member is now able to use other strengths that she had in the business for the business inside the business. And so now we're being more productive at the same time. So this is accelerating growth, because if I can be more productive, guess what? We can grow faster. Now, when we looked at vendors, we needed to negotiate different vendors. It had been a long time since they negotiated certain vendors that they had. And because we have good record keeping, because we're tracking the numbers, we can call the vendors and say, hey, we've been with you for X amount of years. We've done X amount of dollars. And our plan is to do X amount of dollars in the next year. Can we negotiate the price that we get certain materials for? Can we negotiate the price that you provide certain services for us? Now, any good vendor would be ready to listen, but you may have to shop around. That's the other thing. A lot of times we get with different vendors and we just stick with the same person. This is who I've always used. I'm going to always use them. And so even with our insurances, even with different things, utilities like phones and all of that stuff, this is just who I've always used. I'm going to always use them. And we don't go out to negotiate. You're in business. Negotiate the price. Look at other people so that you understand what's out there. You may be missing out on systems that you could be using, phone systems or insurance, the same type of insurance at a better rate, just because this company has a way to get a better rate, but I'm getting the same thing. You don't know until you go out and look. So you have to be very vigilant when it comes to your expenses. One of the other things is you may have some programs and processes and systems in place that you're paying for, but you're not maximizing them. You know, it's like this cell phone. It's like this cell phone. It can do a lot of things. I may have bought it just to make a phone call, maybe see emails and maybe text, but it does so much more. And if I don't take advantage of the other things it does, I end up going out and buying something else to do it when I have it already. I'm already paying for it. So a lot of times we're paying for services and systems that are redundant. And in this case, redundancy is not good because we haven't maximized the service or systems that we already have. So understand and be clear about what you have at your hand before you go out and buy something else. And we're really good about that. Oh, I need this, I need that, I need this. Not realizing that the first thing you bought can do all of those three things that you're looking at and you're paying out. So you're paying $20 here, $20 there, $20 there, when that's $60 and your first thing you had that was $20 can do what the other two do, which means now I'm saving $40, which goes to my profit. So, and because it's in one program or one product and not over multiple. That means it transitions well, it's easier for the team to use, collaboration may be easier because we're not signing into 25 different things. So look at that and figure out the efficiency for yourself. Is it working efficiently? I talked about that earlier. We want to be intentional, we want to be consistent, and we want to be efficient. Those are the three things that we need to do. And the three areas that we need to look at is process and systems, revenue, and expenses. So when we look at all of those things and we make those adjustments, they allow us to have profits on the back end that help us accelerate growth. Now we can use those profits to add more support to the company, to add more benefits to the staff that we already have, to be able to buy the equipment or machinery that we need, to be able to market on a bigger scale, you know, or to be able to advertise on a bigger scale. It gives us opportunities to do so many things. Cash is just another resource for us to use. It's just paper until we put it to work. So we want to make sure that we're putting it to work, and we want to make sure that the money that we're already spending, it's hard enough. We work hard to get that money inside our business. So we want to make sure it's coming in our business, and as it's coming in our business, that we are being good stewards and that we understand how we're using each and every one of those dollars to go out our business, and having those processes and systems to help us be more efficient. All right. So this is repositioning your business for accelerated growth. I know these sound like simple tactics, but I'm telling you, if you start today, I don't care where you are in your business. If you start today taking note of these things, really paying attention, really getting real with yourself and not putting yourself in the way, but really getting real with yourself and looking at those three different areas, you will see a difference in your business like that. And it'll help you make some really great decisions about where to go, what to buy, and how to move, which allows you to accelerate growth really, really fast. You know, you're in business. I want to see you succeed, because whatever you're in business for, I don't care, whatever you're in business for, the world needs it. So we need you to grow. Not only does the world need it, but we know that you're in business because you have ideas, you have dreams, and you have people to impact. And you can't do that if you're struggling. So this is not about where you are. This is about where you can go, but you have to put this into action to get there. Thank you for listening. My name is Cherelle James with My Local CFO. I look forward to talking with you soon. Take care.